All right, hey everyone. Welcome to the second of our summer program seminars. So Tuesday, we told you about sort of the logistics of here you're at the lab, don't fall down, where to put your trash. Today we're going to talk a little bit more. We sort of alluded to the different research we do, but today we have people talking to actually talk about what we actually do here. So the first person we have is Jonathan Carter, who is the Associate Lab Director for Computing Sciences. He's basically in charge of the entire computing sciences area at the lab. So thank you, Jonathan.
Hi, everyone. Let's see if I can. So I think you have to unshare.
Yeah.
Or Andrew. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, so as Dan said, I'm Jonathan Carter. I'm the ALD for Computing Sciences. That was a question. What that means is basically that I help the lab director manage the whole of the lab with a particular emphasis for the computing sciences area. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about the lab. A good question would be, why does the nation need Berkeley Lab? And my argument is that it's a place that brings together scientists from a great many disciplines that can work on things over a longer period of time than usually happens at a university. So in a university, professors tend to lead the research groups. And when they become interested in a different field, they tend to move all the research that they're involved with to that different field. And some of the projects that we've been involved with here require 5, 10, 15, 20 years of sustained effort to bring them to fruition. And that's we're really one of the only places where you can do that kinds of things. And sometimes we collaborate with universities on these long duration projects, but a lot of them are done entirely within the lab complex. Another reason is that we have these things called user facilities, which are held at the labs, and they're usually funded by large block grants. And they set up key capabilities like NERSC is a high-performance computing center, and the ALS is a soft X-ray synchrotron. And these things are much easier to sustain at a place like a national lab, and then people can come and use them and take away the results for their own research. We can respond to national emergencies. So in the COVID crisis, we redirected some of our internal funding and DOE funding to work on vaccines, on therapeutics, and other kinds of things. And so at Berkeley Lab here, we're lucky to have been supporting and involved with a number of famous scientists. Here are just the 3 most recent Nobel Prize winners, Jennifer Doudna, Carolyn Bertozzi, and Saul Perlmutter. But there are many other scientists who do great work at the lab. And here are just some of the user facilities that we deploy here. So there are 6 science areas at the lab. Computing sciences is one of them. I'll go into it in a little bit more detail. But in addition, we have physical sciences, which is high energy physics, nuclear physics. They're involved in things like the Dune experiment to look at the parts of the standard model, things like that. Biological sciences. We're interested in the study of microbes, of plants, of fungi, things like that, and how they can be used, leveraged for energy security. In energy sciences, that's physics and chemistry, material sciences. We're interested in the nanoscale, finding better catalysts, better photovoltaics, things like that. In earth and environmental sciences, we're interested in well, exactly as it sounds, environmental science, how to model things like watersheds, how to do geothermal energy modeling, so on and so forth. And then in energy technologies, we're interested in things like the power grid, energy sources, making energy abundant and available for the US and for the world. So that's kind of an org chart view of it. If you were to compress it down into some research themes, here they are. They're big themes because we had to incorporate, everything that we do, but basically understanding the universe from the smallest scale to the largest scale, discovering materials, chemistry, biology systems, and leveraging those for energy production and for the environment. One focus more on ourselves, driving the future of computing and data sciences, and then accelerating energy technologies from new things like solar energy to geothermal, just to grid modeling for better resilience of the electrical grid, say. And also in revolutionizing how we do science, whether it's teams, formation, whether it's using artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. So here's a quick org chart of the computing sciences area. So I think maybe you heard at the last presentation, there are 4 pieces to computing sciences, and Stefan and Anna will talk about their divisions in a minute or two, and Rebecca will talk about NERSC. And then we have this other entity, the High Performance Data Facility, which is really just emerging. It's a small project at the moment, but it will be built up in the next few years. And that really spans 3 divisions as we're drawing personnel from 3 divisions to work on it. So, if you throw away the org chart and kind of view what are the capabilities, you've got these key pieces of technology. You could put them in the center: high performance computing systems, high performance networking, and HPDF, which is about data lifecycle management. It's just emerging. And at some point, I should replace the Perlmutter picture with the next generation system, which is called Doudna, after Jennifer Doudna, in there. And then you've got a lot of key core capabilities in applied math and computer science, data science, and then bringing them all together with how do we use those for developing models for physical and biological systems research. So one of the things I was just going to mention, because people I think like to hear about, so where are we going? One of the key challenges I guess we face is how to use artificial intelligence. Right, you can't read the New York Times or any other national newspaper or really kind of any kind of news source without hearing about AI and how it's being deployed everywhere. And that's true for science too, right? So NERSC is using AI to improve the ability to run with a lower power footprint, how to schedule jobs and things like that. It's also deploying AI tools for people to come and use NERSC, because more and more people are not just doing modeling and simulation, they're using AI to get results. Across the lab, it's being used to detect even the faintest signals in big high-energy physics experiments. It's being used in synthetic biology to build digital twins of bioreactors so that you can model them to make sure they're more efficient and effective. It's being used to produce candidate materials for better batteries. It's being used to build surrogate models so that we can model weather and climate with a great deal more fidelity than we could previously. And it's being used to build things like models of the electrical grid. So really, it's sprouting up and being used everywhere. And we're trying to develop a lab-wide AI strategy. So it's a great thing that 1,000 flowers are blooming, but how do we make sure all these discoveries are being leveraged and that key mathematical discoveries in one area of the lab are understood by another area of the lab? So back in the last fall, we held a workshop in AI that a great many people participated in, including from computing sciences, and then led by staff at NERSC and SciData, we had a Berkeley Lab AI for Science Summit, where we got together a great number of people from industry too. And then back early in late February, we had this thing called 1,000 Scientist AI Jam, which was jointly with many of the other labs across the complex. We worked with models from OpenAI and Anthropic to see what their latest reasoning models could do to develop scientific hypotheses and things like that. So a lot of interesting work going on that's cross-cutting the whole area. And we're working with the new administration on what might be an AI initiative. So no real surprises here, but I think the key components are scientific data. So we know that models get better with the amount of data, especially curated, high quality data that they ingest. And so it's important to transform all the data that's generated across the lab and across the lab complex to make sure it's AI ready. And then we need to be able to share that with our partners. Compute, some of these models take a great deal of compute time to train, several $100 million, maybe even approaching $1 billion to train some of the largest models. And then the models themselves, you probably have heard a lot about LLMs like ChatGPT, like Anthropic, Claude, Sonnet, and so on. But maybe the models need to be a little bit different for science. Maybe they have a different kind of architecture, and so on and so forth. And then we need to partner with industry to find out what works best. And then downstream, how will we use these models for all the science questions that we have? So that's a kind of a cross-cutting thread that we're working on at the moment across CSA. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So Dan and Andy asked me to include something of my personal journey here, and I wish I had some cute anecdote that my grandfather sat me down when I was 8 years old and told me that he was really concerned why the Schrödinger equation was exponentially complex. But alas, I don't have such a cute anecdote, but I will tell you how I got to where I am here at the moment, roughly. So I started off at the University of Sheffield in the UK doing chemistry, and I pursued that through a postdoc at University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and then I worked for IBM Almaden in the South Bay, still doing a lot of chemistry. Then I came to the lab in 1996, and I worked at NERSC, and one of the highlights here at NERSC was I ran the project to procure the NERSC system. They just finished the deal for NERSC 10, so it tells you it's a little while ago, and the systems they have now are a lot more capable than NERSC 6. But nevertheless, that was a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time doing operational things. This is a picture here of this building being constructed, and I was involved a great deal in that, probably more than I ever wanted to be. Then I was involved in the exascale computing project and in various quantum computing initiatives up until I took this job in 2020. So that's a little bit about me and about the area, and I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah.
Since you said you were a little bit more involved in the building, this building.
Yeah.
How so?
So when the building was originally spec'd, it was not really known exactly what the tenants would be, and so designing the layout for the machine room and the mechanical level and also the office levels was part of the discussion we had with the general contractor. So staff from NERSC really dealt with the machine room and the mechanical level, and I was responsible for some of the office and some of the general work with it.
Well, they asked you.
Yeah, no, it was cool to be involved in the design of the building. What really still upsets me, a lot of the things I really liked had to be value engineered out because the building was overrunning construction costs. So we were meant to have another floor, we were meant to have skylights, we were meant to have lots of things. So Okay, Dan
Any
is,
other questions or? And we'll move along.
yeah, I'll be joining you for dinner if you have any other thoughts. Lunch. Sorry.
It's fine, join you
It's
for
been
dinner.
a-
Wherever you are for dinner, he's gonna join you.
It's been a long week already.
So joining us actually, he's remote from a meeting he's at across the country. Stefan Wild is the head of the Applied Mathematics and Research Division, Computational Research Division. So take it off, Stefan.
Great. And just audio check. You can hear me just fine, Dan?
Yes.
Excellent. So yeah, first, my apologies. Whenever I'm not traveling, you'll find me in building 59. So please say hello and we'll have plenty of chance to do that. I'll spend a little under 10 minutes introducing the Applied Mathematics Computational Research Division. But if you get nothing else, we're going to present about the different divisions, but really we work very closely together. And I would encourage you to not be stovepiped in any local organization, your group or your division. These are really your core folks that you'll be working with and spending a lot of time with this summer, but make sure that you interact with people across the lab, across the computing sciences area, because that's part of what the summer program should be doing. So I always like to lead with the science. So here is just a single sort of high level slide that presents a lot of what the Applied Math and Computational Research Division is after. You can really group it into two main kind of components, one in applied math and one in computer and computational science. And in applied math, that's exactly what you think about. I mean, these are the algorithmic approaches. This is the theory that's underlying various things. We work a lot on the facilities side that Jonathan was mentioning, doing modeling and simulation, digital twins, thinking about automation and self-driving labs of the future. And then in the modeling and simulation thing, trying to develop the sort of highest predictive, highest fidelity models that we can that use the largest computers in the world or use the machines at the most efficient level possible at extreme scales. That's really what's driving a lot of our applied math research and a lot of the work that you will be contributing to in AMCR. On the computer and computational science, I mean, on computer science side of things, we're really caring about performance optimization. So how do we understand how energy and performance relate? That's both in AI workloads, deep learning workflows, and also traditional HPC and ModSim. We do a lot of architecture research, so doing more pathfinding, what's going to be the next sort of beyond CMOS kind of computing technologies. That's neuromorphic, that's analog, that's superconducting. And along with that comes a lot of the work that we do in quantum computing, both on the quantum algorithm side, but also through the advanced quantum testbed and through the quantum systems accelerator. Have to show an org chart. This is where you fit in somewhere in AMCR if you're in AMCR. So I've got great deputies in the form of Peter, Nugent, and Helen, who you'll see throughout the summer. Department heads, a computer science department that John Schalf leads. Lenny Oliker is group lead for performance and algorithms research. John Schalf, our computer architecture group lead, and Damien, who is with me at this meeting that I'm at, in computer languages and system software. The Applied Math Department is headed by Ann Almgren, and you already have met Andy and CCSE, and also there's Sherry Lee in Scalable Solvers. Bert de Jong leads the Computational Science Department as well as the ACSD group. Dan Martin, who is our MC today, he's the ANAG Applied Numerical Algorithms group lead. Then we've got a Quantum Information Science Technology group led by David Santiago. And Jamie Sethian heads up our newest department in the math department, as well as the math group that also has a group in mathematics for experimental data analysis that Jeff Donatelli leads. I want to make sure that you know that we're not just sort of one type of employee in the division, because I think this is reflected across the area as well. So we've got a variety of support staff. We've got faculty scientists who sort of wear two hats, one at the lab and then one at a university. We've got a whole bunch of computer systems engineers that are really vital to execute on a number of projects that we've got going on throughout the division and area. A number of scientists, these are PIs and folks that are performing the basic science of applied mathematics and computer science typically. And then a large number of postdocs, postbacks, and things like this, as well as an important sort of ecosystem that includes all of you, both year-round students and those of you that are visiting for the summer, visiting faculty, and other visitors in general. one more slide on the science side of things, because a lot of what we do in the division is really about at the interfaces and thinking about multidisciplinary, multifaceted science and engineering. So I give just one example from the Sparsitude that's looking at sparse computations. They're looking at the full stack from new algorithms that are appearing in sort of the leading algorithmic venues to scalable implementations. So these are the things that are using the largest supercomputers in the US and in the world, including at NERSC. And then instantiating those through breakthrough applications, sort of actually instantiating the science and achieving the science that you couldn't otherwise achieve. And like Jonathan, I will just end with a little story on my path. The message here is really that I think the national labs are a phenomenal place to be. I was an undergrad at the University of Colorado in lovely Boulder, and then was at Cornell in operations research and information engineering for a PhD. But really, a formative part of that was I was a summer intern, a graduate intern at Argonne National Lab outside of Chicago. And, I fell in love with the people that were there, really. That I could walk down the hall and find incredibly smart people from around the world working on a variety of super challenging problems. I really felt like there was a team-based approach there that I saw now throughout my career across the national labs. So I liked it so much that I was a postdoc there and then did various things at Argonne for a decade and a half before taking the plunge and making the move across the country with my family. So now I'm the division director for the AMCR division. I've been here about 2.5 years. So I'm also new to the area. I would love if you could share with me your dining recommendations or things that you like to do in the area. I promise you I will reciprocate and tell you all the things that I've discovered in the past couple of years as well. So I'm happy to take questions if that works remotely. And again, make the most of your experience. Don't hesitate to reach out and talk to people like me, people that are outside of your immediate sphere. That's part of what I think the summer really should be, is discovering new people and kind of serendipitous interactions.
Does anybody have questions? Comments? All right. Like Stefan said, he's normally easy to find. He's usually here, and so you should definitely try to track him down and catch him and talk to him then in person when he's not two-dimensional. So thanks, Stefan. Next up is Anna, who is the head of the scientific data division.
Lisa. So I'm Anna Kupresanin. I'm head of this scientific data division, which is the newest division in computing sciences area. And I'm pretty sure you have seen this slide last week, actually earlier this week during the orientation, but I want to go through it because I have probably slightly different perspective than you heard. So what are we about? We are scientific data division, and this division fosters breakthrough in discoveries through the application and development, so both application and development of novel data science method, technologies, and infrastructure. And I put this in bold letters because this is very important to us. We do that in partnership with science domain experts, because a lot of our people who are in the division, they have computer science background, machine learning, statistics, math. Usually we don't generate the data, scientists generate the data. So we have to work closely with them to develop methods, tweak maybe existing methods, develop new ones, so we actually answer the questions that they want to answer to move science forward. So our research includes machine learning, data infrastructure, security and privacy for scientific computing and energy technologies, and scientific software engineering. And we really partner with a variety of domain scientists, from biology and material science to cosmology and particle physics. So, and one of the research areas in the division is centered around new UX and UI designs. So the design tools that address the challenges of creating scientific software that puts the users, in this case scientists, experience in the forefront so that these tools have longevity because they are adopted by various science domains. If you are in SDD, then you're, okay, please advance. It looks like if even to a computer, if you say please, it listens. So if you're in scientific data division, you are in one of the 8 groups that we have in SDD. As Jonathan said, I am the division director, Lavanya and Helen are my deputies, and Jason, who sits in the back, is my administrator, and most of the questions Jason can answer. So every question I get that I know, I move it in Jason's direction. So as you can see, among these 8 groups that we have computational biosciences group, but we also have computational cosmology and physics and X-ray sciences group. And then we have groups that deal more with data and data management of all sorts. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. That was just a delay or why? Okay, looks like. So people in this division, they build expertise through collaboration. And you have seen this half circle on top a couple of days ago when they told you that there are 17 national labs in the nation. They have different purposes, different missions. We have, in the division, we have worked with all of them. In some time or some form, we had projects with people from all other national labs. We also work with data that come from user facilities that are hosted here at Berkeley Lab, from NERSC and ESNet to Molecular Foundry, JGI, and advanced light sources. Even if you are not into data and you're doing pure math, applied math research here, I would still highly encourage you to go and see these facilities. They are fascinating. And if you work with data, you definitely want to go there and see where the data come from. It's an eye-opening when you can see all these instruments and understand how much data is coming from these instruments and what scientists have to deal with these days when technologies have advanced and they can measure everything at pretty much everything at very fine time scales and spatial resolutions. So our expertise, as I said, are in managing the entire data lifecycle from data acquisition, transfer, cleaning, reuse, and use and reuse, publishing to preservation. And this is a complicated cycle, and it doesn't go in this order. I had to have some order on the slide, right? But this, if you've worked with data, you know it's messy. And it's becoming more and more messy as data is a bottleneck, becoming bottleneck in scientific discovery, because we have data coming from instruments, from telescopes that do sky surveys. We have data coming from instruments in autonomous labs. We have them coming from high performance computing facilities. At NERSC, people run simulations. Stefan mentioned digital twins, right, of all sorts of physical processes. It's coming from different sources at different rates and volumes. And in scientific data division, we are embracing AI technologies that have been developed by industries to help us with orchestration of data coming from different sources. And we believe that AI is the key enabler so that we can actually manage these kind of volumes in the data that we expect to see in the future. Also in science and high consequence areas, visualization of data is important, explainability and understanding, as well as reproducibility and trust. No matter how much we might study some algorithm, if a scientist does not have a feeling how the algorithm works, if they can trust it, they're reluctant to adopt it. And so therefore, we have to work with domain scientists. So we advance scientific data management, develop algorithms that we need, but also develop trust on the with the applications so that the algorithms get adopted. So we haven't started from scratch because people in the division have been collaborating with other areas in the laboratory and creating data platforms, repositories, tools, and also developing standards that are very important when we want to develop frameworks for getting data AI ready. And they have been doing that for different application areas. And here, through some of these logos, you see in what applications areas people have been working on. One of the latest things that we are developing is what we call Superbench, which is basically a higher resolution data sets for machine learning and AI. So people, AI researchers can grab the data, they can develop the algorithms, and they can also benchmark them against data that come from high performance simulations. And what else? Okay, so one thing that I want to mention here is that the data management is important in science, but it's like in the background of what scientists do. When you go to tour of NERSC downstairs, on the current machine, per mother, you're going to see a picture that is behind this word scientific discovery. And that picture comes from a cosmology simulation that was developed by a team of people who work in cosmology center that we have. Through those calculations and through sky surveys, they have discovered new gravitational waves. That didn't happen. That would happen if there was not this foundational work and in data wrangling, IO data, and storage management and scalable data analysis. All these things enable scientific discovery that is that shiny star at the top of the pyramid that we want to achieve. But we understand that a lot of research has to happen on the algorithms that need to be developed for data management. And do I have a few more minutes to one? So you said that we need to say something about our background, so.
Well, I invited you.
Okay.
I'm not gonna tell you anything.
So I don't have a picture here of a place where I was born, and that is Croatia. I finished undergraduate in math there, and I studied in the US. I had office on the 26th floor of that building called Cathedral of Learning in Pittsburgh, and that was fun time. I moved after that to Arizona State. I also taught statistics and math classes in math department there, and I was also running statistical consulting center, where I get to work on data from different disciplines, and that was a special fun. To quote a famous statistician, Tukey, who said, statisticians have fun because they can play in everyone's backyard. And that was really the case. And after that, I moved to Lawrence Livermore, where I spent almost 15 years and joined Berkeley Lab almost 2 years, a year and a half ago. And having more fun with data, but less with actually data because they don't let me touch real data these days. I'm more in management and people management, so I don't touch data on a regular basis, but hopefully that will also change. Okay, questions for me? Yes.
We're talking about being able to take a tour of the supercomputer downstairs, or that we can at least go to see it.
We will talk about that.
Wonderful.
You are next, and you're going to tell them all about that.
Okay.
But take advantage of taking tours of other user facilities at the lab. And I don't know if somebody explained to you what user facility means, But it really means like it's a DOE facility where there is some kind of process to get time on a microscope, on a supercomputer or whatever instrument facility is hosting, and then people can do their experiments there. So, well, if there is a tour organized for summer students, you're going to see scientists, computational scientists, and they'll explain the complex instruments there. You are going to see that you probably don't have a chance to see at your university. Any other questions? Yes.
So you're at both labs now? You're currently at both?
No, I'm not at Livermore anymore.
I see.
I used to be there almost 15 years. I'm only here. I collaborate with colleagues from there, but my affiliation is Berkeley Lab. Okay? There's so much work. It's hard to be in two labs at the same time.
Like that, yeah.
Yes.
What's the coolest data you've ever cleaned or worked with before?
Coolest data. Oh, that's a hard question. This is like asking me about my favorite child. Coolest data. Maybe Mars rover. That was kind of cool because it wasn't collected on this planet. So yeah, that was cool. Anything else? Thanks. I'm also in this building, so stop by.
I would say Anna is also ubiquitous. You see her everywhere you go. I want to point out that, so she mentioned her collaborating with all these labs. That's the norm here, right? I mean, I want to mention that she placed that graphic of all the labs, and I've collaborated with 7 of those labs in various times. And so it's what we do. So, and the engine for that collaboration is supercomputing. So, Rebecca's here next to talk about NERSC.
Yay. Let me just share my screen. My daughter used to call it share your scream.
Share that too.
Like, I think I will. But now she's 10. She doesn't say cute things like that anymore, so.
She
Anyway,
grew up during Zoom, the boom of Zoom. I see.
yes, actually, she went to kindergarten on Zoom.
I see. That'll do the screen.
Yeah.
Show you the screen.
Oh, shoot, I just, decided, okay, let me get myself settled here. Okay, all right, so my name is Rebecca Hartman-Baker. I'm going to talk to you all about NERSC in 15 minutes or less. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So I lead the user engagement group at NERSC. And I'll show you an org chart later, so because everybody was showing an org chart, I felt like I needed to add one. So it's in there later. I am a world famous violinist. Not really. I really like to pick fruits. And so you can join the fruit picking channel on Slack and join me. I'll probably go out this weekend and pick some cherries. I am a mom. My son is Vinny and my daughter is Elena. He's 18, she's 10. I am originally from Kentucky, and I lived in Australia for a while, so I'm honorary Aussie, not a real Aussie though. And I love algorithms, and I earned a PhD in computer science from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. So just a few fun facts about me. So now I'm going to talk about NERSC. So NERSC stands for the National Energy Research Scientific Computing Center. So we are a national supercomputer center funded by the U.S. Department of Energy Office of Science. Office of Science is what funds this whole lab. So we support the SC research mission, but we are part of Berkeley Lab, even though a lot of people say NERSC, you might think it's separate, but it's a part of Berkeley Lab. So basically the deal is if you're a researcher who got funding from the Office of Science and you need big computing resources, then you can apply to use NERSC. Other researchers can apply sometimes they'll give them some time on NERSC if their research is relevant to the SC mission. So we support 11,000 users We have about 1,100 different projects that are running on our systems every year. Our users come from all 50 states, plus a lot of other countries. About 65% of our users are from universities, and we see hundreds of people logging on each day. So actually, I believe we are the largest user facility in all of DOE, and for most users. So we are the Mission High Performance Computing Center for the Office of Science. So the mission is, there's these different scientific areas that people in the Office of Science are doing research in, or are being funded to do research in. And so these are the kind of the 6 main areas. And we have people on our machines who are doing all of these things. And so we provide supercomputing resources for people. And so I'll tell you a little bit about our systems and what we have. So we have Perlmutter, that's our flagship supercomputer that people can run on. We have a big data archive called HPSS Archive. And then we also have a big file system where people can share kind of their files in their collaborations. And you all will get to go on a tour of NERSC. I'm not sure when that's scheduled for, but you should totally go on it. And if you're gonna go, sure wear closed-toed shoes. Okay, that's like our requirement. Oh, also no spike heels. You might get them caught in the little crates. Okay, so anyway, now you know kind of about NERSC. So I'm gonna tell you about supercomputers because I said we had a big supercomputer, but like, what is that? Well, a supercomputer is really just a leading edge powerful computer system. It's generally like one of the most powerful computers in the world at that time. And so today, supercomputers generally consist of a bunch of nodes, and they are connected together with an advanced interconnect. So the nodes could be similar to sort of a top performing desktop machine, like a workstation, that typically have the most advanced processors, fast memory, just very state of the art. And then the interconnect, so the nodes are connected to each other because the way that we tend to do computations is we need to we kind of break down whatever we're doing into little pieces. So we do some of them on each of the different nodes, and they tend to need to communicate kind of results, intermediate results to keep computing. So they're connected with a network that's within the machine, and it has some kind of an optimized topology to it. And then it also has very fast bandwidth and very good speed. And so it's not quite the same as cloud. There are cloud computing out there. You can do sort of the same type of computing on the cloud, like on AWS or something. But really what distinguishes a supercomputer is that it has this really advanced interconnect, and the system is really optimized for these types of computations rather than just for general purpose use. Okay, so why do we even have a supercomputer? Well, supercomputers enable us to solve hard problems that would otherwise be out of reach. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 examples. So the first example is the rational design of chemical catalysts. So in the past, the way that people discovered catalysts is they would be like, oh crap, my reaction has been contaminated. Oh wait, it ran 20 times faster. So it was kind of a serendipitous process where it was just kind of random. So instead of doing that or trying a bunch of experiments, if you were going to do that, well, first of all, you'd have to be really lucky. But if you did a bunch of experiments, it would be really expensive and time consuming. You'd have to get all these chemicals, you'd have to mix them all together, you'd have to dispose of them afterwards, you have to make sure nothing explodes, that kind of stuff. Otherwise, another option is you could use a supercomputer. You can simulate thousands of different materials on a supercomputer without even breaking a sweat. Takes only a few days, no toxic chemicals involved, no cleanup, no waste. And then you could select the top candidates that you got from your simulations, and you could try those out in the lab. And so I actually worked on a project that was like this when I was a postdoc. Okay, another thing is, let's say you want to analyze millions of images of the night sky to try to find a supernova. Okay, so you could look at them and flip through. Maybe you could, if you're like somebody like me or like a professor, you could hire students to do that. So in other words, you all could do that. If it took you 1 second per image though, it would take you 11.57 days without any rest per million images. So that may not be very feasible. You know, there are labor laws, I understand. So alternatively, and again, much easier and better, you could do this in essentially almost real time in the blink of an eye. You could just get a machine learning model to find a supernova. And in fact, they do this, and they do this like at night while they are having the telescope pointing to the sky. They do a little analysis. They send their data to NERSC. They do a little analysis. Analysis says no supernova, or it says yes, there's a supernova, and then that helps them to determine what they should do next. Should they focus in somewhere? Should they move it to another part of the sky? Like, what should they do? Okay, so you can see why supercomputers are really important and can help us to solve problems that we wouldn't be able to solve in any other way. So we have, like I said, we have like 11,000 users. They produce amazing science. I'm not going to go through all of this. It's just kind of eye candy thing that you can look at. But we have about 2,500 publications every year that reference NERSC, that say they use NERSC resources in order to do their science. Okay, so let's talk about it. I said NERSC is the HPC center for the Department of Energy Office of Science, but I didn't tell you what HPC meant. It means high performance computing. So high performance computing as a field, it includes the supercomputers themselves, adjacent hardware associated with them, storage, networking, stuff like that, plus all the software that goes to run on them, the types of algorithms that people use in order to solve these challenging problems, numerical methods that are used on computers, simulation, the way people do simulations, data analysis, all of that stuff. So HPC, high performance computing, supercomputing, parallel computing, scientific computing, computational science, those are all very similar terms. They're a little bit nuanced, but basically if you hear any of those terms, you know that we're all kind of talking about the same field. So let's talk about careers, right? My brother-in-law, I don't know why I'm telling you all this, but my brother-in-law loved this game called Careers. It was like from the 1970s. Did anybody play that? You might be at the right age to play that. Not all of you all. Like you all weren't even born when that happened. But anyway, it was a funny game. But they didn't have any careers in high performance computing in that game. I don't know why. Weird. Okay, anyway. So there's a lot of different careers in high performance computing. So I'm just going to kind of go through like kind of what I would classify like kind of three main sort of branches or areas, but of course there's a lot more than this. So the first thing is, research oriented careers. So you might be like a scientist or engineer who uses high performance computing to further your research. So that would be like all of our users at NERSC, that's an example. And they're using the supercomputer as a scientific instrument, right, in order to make scientific discoveries. Another thing is you might be like a computer scientist or applied mathematician or a scientist of some sort who develops algorithms and or codes stuff, like especially like libraries that run on a supercomputer. So probably most of you all, except for if you're working with us at NERSC, most of you all are probably working with somebody sort of very in this broad category, I would say. Another thing is you might be like a computer engineer or a computer scientist who does research on operating systems or networking or storage or hardware. And that, you see that a lot like at universities. And we do have some folks like that at the lab here. And also in industry, there are some researchers who work in this area. Okay, so that's kind of the first broad umbrella category. My second broad category is more like engineering. So we actually have to have a lot of different types of engineers who are working in HPC. So we might have people who are designing new high performance components of our systems. So they might be designing the network. They also might be designing our cooling system for these things. I mean, if you think about it, if you've ever had your laptop on your lab and it got so hot that like burned you. Okay, well, so we have like thousands of nodes, each of which is like more powerful than your laptop down there. And, they're running and they're going to get really hot. And if we're not careful, they're going to turn into like a pile of silicon goo or something, right? So we need to be able to cool them down. So that's a really important aspect of work that really contributes to HPC. Okay, another thing is you might be like a software engineer. You might write software for the operation of supercomputers. So you might be a software engineer at a company called SchedMD, which is the one that makes the batch scheduler for our system so that it decides like when different jobs should start on the machine. You might be a compiler developer, maybe at AMD or something, or developing libraries at NVIDIA or whatever. I'm just kind of giving those examples. All right, and then of course, the third one is of course the best, which is working at an HPC center. Yay. So I'd say that, I'd break this down into sort of two categories. So keeping our supercomputers and our data center systems running smoothly, and then also helping users of the system. So we have a lot of system administrators, we have site reliability engineers who, there's somebody actually here 24/7, 365 days of the year, making sure that all of our systems are monitored and they remain available and they don't catch on fire. And we have data scientists who analyze monitoring data to figure out like maybe how we can operate more efficiently, or to detect bad nodes before something bad happens with those bad nodes. And then of course, we also have civil and mechanical engineers maintaining our machine infrastructure. Like I said, the cooling is very important. And the electricity also very, very important. Okay, so then in the helping users of supercomputers, so I employ like a whole bunch of HPC consultants, and they provide expert assistance to our users. We have performance engineers, they help optimize people's codes. We have data scientists to help people with more like data sort of topics and machine learning. And we have people who work on training. So actually you all are gonna get some training from NERSC, I think starting next week. And then we have community engagement experts that are trying to cultivate our community and increase the collaboration within our HPC community. Okay, so I felt obligated to show an org chart, and that's our org chart at NERSC. I am down at the bottom in the middle, but we have basically 3 departments, and then we have so many groups I can't even count that high. So what is it? 10, 14 groups. Okay, we're pretty big. Okay, so then the question for you all is like, what do you want to do? Like, if you're interested in high performance computing, I've shown you like all these different things you can do. There's no single career path. We have a lot of people whose paths kind of diverge and wind. It's pretty normal. Or you can just go straight into it. That's great too. I just wanted to share a few examples of people. So the first one is me. So I majored in physics as an undergraduate, and I did a summer internship where I simulated physics on a computer. And I just like thought that was like so cool. And I realized that actually I liked doing the simulation a lot more than I liked the actual physics of it. So I went to graduate school in computer science. I studied numerical methods. And I wanted to work on something that was kind of unique, but my advisor, he didn't have any money for it. So I was a TA, but I didn't really like being a TA. My husband, at the time, he worked at the cable company. And at the time, this shows you how long ago this was. This is when cable modems were rolling out. Like before that, there was just dial-up. So this was, in prehistory for most of you all, probably. And so he was on the phone with one of the customers and chatting, and that customer turned out to work at the NCSA, which is the HPC center at the University of Illinois. And that person told him he should tell his wife to apply for an RA at NCSA. So he told me that, and then I did that. And then I got a job there compiling computational chemistry software for the users of NCSA. Yeah. So that was the beginning of my HPC career. And then the rest is history. Okay, another example is Michael Heath. So he got an undergraduate degree in mathematics. He worked for a few years at Oak Ridge National Lab, actually. And then he went back to school and he got a PhD in computer science, and he went back to Oak Ridge again. And then after a while, he moved to the University of Illinois. And he wrote a numerical methods textbook that some of you may have used. I think it's still in use today. And he advised 20 PhD students, including me. Okay, here's another interesting career. So there's a network engineer I know who majored in architecture, like the building kind of architecture. And there were no jobs in architecture, but there was an opening for a computer networking job at NERSC. And there was nobody to fill it because this was during the dot-com bubble. So everybody was going off and making millions of dollars on dot-coms. So this person joined NERSC then, and 20 plus years later, still working at NERSC in computer networking. Okay, another one, system administrator. So this is a person I also know at NERSC. He got a PhD in physics, computational astrophysics. He was a postdoc at NERSC, and he worked with astrophysics code optimization. He then managed to get a staff position here at NERSC in application performance, but then he was assigned to build a test system. And he got so interested in that he switched over to become a system administrator for Perlmutter. All right, and then my last career example is you. So if you think about it, like, what is the most important things for you in your career? How can you ensure that your career aligns with your personal values? Personally, I sleep very well at night because of my career here at NERSC. I know that I'm helping people to discover brand new science, and that is really cool. And I like that, and it makes me sleep well at night. So what do you need to do to get from here to there? Okay, and that's it. Any questions? Yeah,
What fruit are you most excited to pick this summer?
I'm sorry,
What fruit
what
are you most
fruit?
excited about?
Oh, definitely cherries. So cherries are my favorite fruit. And right now is cherry season. And it goes for a few more weeks. And then after that, it will be peach season. And so then we'll go pick peaches. And then it will be blackberry season. And we can pick blackberries. And you can pick blackberries anywhere, actually. You just need to find kind of a low place where it's a little wetter. And there will be blackberry brambles growing there. You can just pick them for free. Yeah. Any other questions?
Nothing online.
Awesome. All right. Well, I've clearly answered everyone's questions. Thank you very much.
I have the dates of the nurse tours. So we have the nurse tours on the 16th and 18th of July, as well as tours of the ALS and the molecular later that month.
And that actually segues very well into what I was gonna say was that if you look at the nurse, the Slack channel, Lisa just posted a link to the webpage where they have all the RSVPs for the summer. So look at that, figure out what you wanna do in RSVP as soon as you can, because these things fill up, they're all limited, you can't have 1,000 people in the machine room, for example, so sign up for things, and if things fill up, it might be possible to add tours, but sign up as soon as you can, because it's easier to do that if things fill up early. So RSVP page, plan your summer out now. And get those on, get the books for those. Then lunch is next, but before you go, a little bit what's coming up next for you all. Tomorrow, there's the virtual student meet and greet, which is 11 to 12. Andy will be hosting that. My son is graduating from high school, so I'm going to miss that. And then next week, we have a bunch of things. For those of you who are in the WD&E programs like SULI and CCC and VIP, there is some events on Tuesday. On Tuesday also, Jean Sexton, who I think was here, is hosting, I believe you're hosting 2 walking tours?
Yes.
Good. We agree, which is good. So there are lots of things you can RSVP for in the RSVP page. There are the HBC fundamentals classes being run by NERSC Wednesday and Thursday. You should have signed up for those already, hopefully. There's another WD event on Thursday, and then Friday is another walking tour being hosted by Helen, who is Jonathan's deputy. So all those are great. And then that's everything on tap for next week. Any questions? Any thoughts? You guys want lunch? So if you've signed up for lunch, if you're RSVP for lunch, I think there's at least a table out there you can check in with. If you didn't RSVP for lunch, there's usually leftovers, but we have to wait till everyone else goes first. But so don't give up hope on eating if you haven't RSVP. Just hang tight. All right, thanks, everyone.
Temporary servers show up, even when you do all that stuff.
Why is this?
Why don't they show up even when you do all this stuff?